This is a scheme analysis and an explanation about cover three and how I believe it covers the field in a geometrically appropriate or mature manner, horizontally and vertically. Even though there's people out there who say it's an outdated coverage, I think at the NFL level, there's a lot of advantages. Number one, from a too high safety look, you can allow some obfuscation for the quarterback. Now, you don't see that on the screen right here. You see quite obviously a one high safety set up by the Cleveland Browns. This is filmed from 2023, but you can move or merge into a cover three from pretty much any particular look. This particular play happens to be one of the weaknesses of it. While there are not four vertical threats on the field, because quite obviously the fullback tight end Pat Ricard here is not a vertical threat, so you can't really put those four verticals in the corners and the free safety's face. What you can do is run Mark Andrews right up the seam, especially when you got inside linebacker consistently just staring at the quarterback, not opening up to number two. And really, this pass is probably going to be completed even if JOK isn't checked up on Gus Edwards so quickly like he is into the boundary here. Beautiful illustration of where there's a seam, a natural seam between the corner to the boundary and the free safety, and then also between the flat defender, curl flat defender, and the inside linebacker or hash defender to the boundary. In each of these plays, I'll kind of pause the video at certain moments to give you the setup. You clearly got a one high safety look pre-snap. Once again, 2023 film Ravens at San Francisco. And then I'll also present to you some of the weaknesses or the areas that quarterbacks try to attack. So you do have on this particular snap a staggering of the cornerback depth. In this case, Brandon Stevens at the bottom, Marlon Humphrey at the top. One guy is deeper than the other. Once this thing works out post snap and you get the four underneath droppers illustrated by the yellow line, I want to talk about what I would call the curl flat defender here. Everyone doesn't necessarily refer to him as a curl flat defender. Some people just say the flat defender. So because he doesn't have much depth at all, you can see his feet haven't reached the 45-yard line. You've got a tremendous amount of space in here for the quarterback and the receiver, in this case Brandon Ayuk, to operate off of. So let's check out the release at the bottom side of the screen. Even though it's cover three and he released outside of the curl flat defender, he, being Brandon Ayuk down here, is able to bring this route back to the sideline. Really, it's just a one-on-one in that situation, in that moment, in that space. Even though we're talking about a zone defense and Brandon Stevens has his back to the sideline and his eyes, chest, face mask into the middle of the field, he's not in a situation to be helped by really anyone at all, because the curl flat defender is so shallow, doesn't have any depth at all. Clear passing lane for Brock Purdy. And then number two, you just got at the NFL level a high level of execution required. They really can use the entire width of the field to attack pretty much any coverage at all. Now, there's a lot of versions of cover three, and I'll attempt to show you at least three or four in this video, number one. Number two, I am in the middle of trying to track as many teams as possible when and where they play certain coverages. So I'm just accumulating. My goal is to accumulate at least 60 to 80 coverage examples for about 10 or 12 teams in the NFL, and then document when and where they play particular coverage. This is a too high safety look on a 3rd and 12. Lions down in Tampa Bay, I believe week 6, 2023. Post snap, here's what you're going to get. Kirby Joseph, the yellow line emanating from his position, is going to drop down, essentially be the hash defender. The other safety drop back to center field. Alex Anzalone lined up almost like a mug look on the line of scrimmage. Drop out to the flats. You'll see the way this works out. There's your four underneath droppers. Anzalone being a little bit more shallow, doesn't have as much depth. Makes sense. He's working from the line of scrimmage versus, obvious comparison here would be Kirby Joseph, who was lined up deeper and then dropped down onto the hash. It makes sense that Joseph would be further from the line of scrimmage, in this case closer to the yard to gain, which is the 31-yard line. Quarterback gets out of here because Charles Harris stunted or spun to the inside, unable to finish the sack off. Aiden Hutchinson, a little bit of contact that Tampa Bay guys were looking for to be called a penalty. But the idea is that in a cover three zone, any zone for that matter, but cover three, you got a lot of eyes pointed towards the quarterback. If he does scramble or throw to someone underneath, everyone's able to converge and take good angles and prevent additional yardage from being gained. When I say that it can be run from, any platform, I mean it. This is 2022 film Cowboys Bucks playoff game, and you can see that Tampa Bay is set up in a 6-2. Now why? First of all, it's like a 2nd and 6, 2nd and 7. Cowboys are in a diamond formation. I think they've got a sixth offensive lineman in the backfield, located right there. But in any case, Tampa Bay's matched it with a 6-2 look. One high safety on the left-hand portion of your screen, spot shadowed in yellow. And then post snap, both outside linebackers, edge defenders, whatever you want to call them, once they read pass, are dropping out of here to get into the flats to create that four underneath droppers. And you can see that you've got less depth by those two edge defenders because, again, they had longer to go. It just makes sense, right? They were on the line of scrimmage pre-snap or at the snap, and then had to peel out of there and get depth once they read pass. Additional to that, and something I'll talk about a little bit later here in this video, is that you've got in a zone defensive structure, normally a zone turn means your eyes, or as from the outside corner perspective, your eyes, your chest, your face mask, whatever, are opening to the quarterback, to the middle of the field, called a zone turn, versus what we get down here at the bottom side of the screen, Carlton Davis III, who's since moved on to the Lions in 2024, and then now the Patriots for 2025 and beyond. He's executing a man turn. His back is being turned to the quarterback. So he's playing a Louis or Maryland or solo, whatever you want to call it, inside of, or at the exterior of, I should say, a zone coverage scheme. So basically, the other 8 defenders dropping in coverage are all playing zone, but Carlton Davis III is playing man. That's by design. It's just a man call on the backside of a cover 3, typically executed against a 3-by-1 formation. Another opportunity here to look at how defenses at the NFL level kind of operate on a string. And so what I mean is players who appear to be disconnected from each other are actually operating on a string whereby one player blitzes and another player replaces him. This is a 1st and 10, Bengals at the Ravens. I believe week 10 or 11, 2023, but I could be wrong. In any case, you get Kyle Hamilton blitzing off the edge, the yellow line. And then when I say a string, I'm talking about these two players here being connected to Jadeveon Clowney, even though they are clearly lined up on opposite sides of the field. Hamilton blitzing, being replaced by Marcus Williams in cover 3. And then Jadeveon Clowney dropping out to the flats. You can see Joe Burrow clearly looking to that side. Well, why? It makes sense. That's his best guy over there. Jamar Chase lined up with Brandon Stevens. So the Ravens could have been a hard-coded coverage scheme, meaning let's drop the outside linebacker to the boundary. This could have also been a response to Jamar Chase being lined up over to the boundary. But how does it work out? I don't want to say confuses Joe Burrow, but it slows down his processing of what's occurring such that he thinks he's got an opening to throw it to Jamar Chase. But unfortunately, the outside linebacker is directly in the window, number one. Number two, admittedly, you do have pass rusher in the case of Nnamdi Madubuike in the throwing lane, in his potential line of sight. And then Tavius Robinson ends up winning to the inside to get a sack. The overall point that I'm trying to get across here is, even though cover 3 is no longer really anyone's base coverage, when you are able to teach and execute multiple versions of it like this, you can play what I would say are safe coverage calls that still provide some level of obfuscation, hidden post-snap assignments to the quarterback that he has to process while the pass rush is bearing down. It's one of the things that Mike McDonald did, an amazing job of in Baltimore that kind of the Ravens defense missed early on in 2024. Probably notice some patterns in terms of where it's being played, the down and distance. This is a 2nd and 14. Again, 2023, Bengals backed up almost to their 20-yard line after an initial loss on the first down play. 2 safeties lined up in a high safety alignment, but what happens post-snap is, again, Jadeveon Clowney dropping out of here to the boundary since the ball was on the right hash. You do have also a dangerous receiver lined up to the boundary, in this case of T. Higgins, with Jamar Chase lined up in the slot. So there's the way that it works out. The 2 players who kind of don't belong here is Clowney and the safety Geno Stone in the 4 underneath dropper delineation. One corner, kind of hard for you guys to see probably, I believe down here is Ronald Darby. Another corner up here, definitely taking a zone turn. You can see his eyes, his face mask looking in towards the quarterback, and then Kyle Hamilton rolling to the middle of the field. Ends up being a quick throw by Joe Burrow. The safety, in the case of Geno Stone, breaking on it. Why? Because he's sitting at depth, dropping down slightly from his initial alignment, but sitting down, breaking on the ball because he's able to see the quarterback, see the route, and then get to it quite quickly, make a big hit on Boyd to force an incomplete. Actually, I think that one was ruled completed despite a big collision there from Stone. Another example here that we have movement pre-snap, initial too high safety alignment from the 49ers, matching whether it's 12 or 21 personnel by Tampa Bay. I'm not sure how number 41 is classified. Certainly, it's a fullback number historically. Ends up being a 2-by-2 formation, so fullback slash tight end, Godwin as the receiver, actual tight end or confirmed tight end, and then Evans wide receiver to the top side of our screen. Get kind of a deeper out. There you can see the cover 3 workings. When I get the end zone angle, we'll talk about what this inside linebacker is doing. He's got a wrong read because of the play action between Mayfield and the running back. He thinks it possibly could be run for a moment, so he wasn't keying the offensive line there completely, or just was unable to discern that he had pass pro in front of him. But in any case, since he realizes that he's wrong and moved forward slightly, he's got to turn his back and regain that depth to get underneath of routes. And you can see that he's tried to get underneath of the route from Godwin's from the other side. Ends up being some contact at the top side of the screen on Mike Evans, who thinks that he should get some type of call. Either way, it's almost a great play on the ball by the 49ers corner. We'll give you the end zone angle so you can see that particular play at the end. Again, we'll focus on this inside linebacker. Generally, your inside linebackers are, getting to the hash. In this case, when the ball's in the middle of the field. But the inside linebacker 48 is unsure initially, so he got a wrong read, meaning turn your back, get to your drop because you have moved either laterally too far or further than you're taught to, or come downhill such that you'll have to regain ground to get back into your zone drop. So he does get underneath of that route by Godwin really nicely, and you can see it's almost an interception on the sideline, real close to the sideline on a ball intended for Mike. Last one that we'll show here, kind of like just a basic version of playing man on the backside. In our terminology, it would be Louis or Maryland. Other people use other phrases or words, solo, whatever, to indicate that you're playing man on the backside X inside of a cover 3. Very similar to what I showed you with Carlton Davis III from 2023 earlier in this video. So there's the way that this is going to work out. The strong safety rolled up or nickel defender, spot shadowed in blue, he's going to drop out to the curl flats. And then the safety, I think it's Winfield, is going to kind of sit down on the hash, while the other two remaining underneath droppers, the inside linebackers, are going to push to the top side of our screen, the right-hand side of Tampa Bay's defense. Within this structure, everyone dropping into a pretty clean-looking cover 3. It is a great play by Lavonte David, who's just continues to be an amazing player, if you ask me, in terms of his impact, his ability to play well against the run, play well against the pass. He's really just become timeless. So you got typical cover 3 zone responsibility reactions, I should say, from pretty much most of those players there. The safety to the top side of the screen is maybe a little bit slow getting to where the formation is lined up, meaning you got 3 receivers. If by some chance you did get 2 verticals, he would have to be probably a little bit further over here if you were to draw this coverage up on the chalkboard or the whiteboard. But inside of that coverage, that zone structure, you clearly have man up here to the top side. Inconsequential in terms of where the ball is thrown. It is Nico Collins, so I think Stroud is probably looking there. And then the ball is completed underneath. Lavonte David is able to come over and force a fumble by the tight end. A lot going on with the routes there by the Texans. C.J. Stroud able to get through it quickly against a 4-man rush, come back to the tight end, make a completion. Haven't even discussed it at all. It seems quite obvious, right? If you're going to play a cover 3 and only rush 4, you've got to be able to get pressure with those guys. You're missing the strong safety the safety who drops down, I should say, onto the hash here. I've got kind of a orange or orangish brown arrow that you can kind of see where he replaces David's drop. David replaces 45, and then 45 pushes to the flat, to the boundary. Since they're unable to get to Stroud and really disrupt him. Stroud's looking here to our left, his right. Initially comes back, gets it to the tight end. I think David identified the route from Nico Collins off screen to our right. It was the route being defended by the man corner. So I think he tried to sit underneath of that route, and as a result, underneath concept to the tight end was open for Stroud. In any case, this is my look at a basic explanation of cover three with some slight variations that maybe you'd find interesting. If you had any questions or observations or things you think I left out, this wasn't designed to be comprehensive. Number one, I really want these to be in the 2 to maybe 3 minute range. We clearly went well past that with this one. I want to present as many coverage videos as possible for a lot of reasons, but really selfishly, it's because I'm already doing the work in trying to organize and map out coverages where and when teams play particular coverages, to maybe glean some patterns for Ravens, Lions, and even Seahawks opponents in 2025. Appreciate you guys' time.